It's become apparent to me over the years that the young Earth creationists are very much in favour of dinosaurs living with humans in the past. This is of course nonsense. We've got evidence, strong evidence, to suggest that dinosaurs are around tens of millions of years before humans ever were. But one creationist YouTuber thinks that problem has been solved. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, Simon Dan. Thanks very much for joining me. Right, on with today's video then, which comes from Standing for Truth. They have a guest on who can apparently solve the problem of humans and dinosaurs living together in the past. Here we go.
I think there's enough there to give us good reason to believe that man and dinosaurs coexisted. Now, one of the largest challenges, one of the biggest challenges that evolutionists will put forth, or anti-young Earth creationists, they'll say, okay, well, if man and dinosaur coexisted and man lived alongside dinosaurs, why don't we find dinosaurs and humans buried together in the flood layers, in the rocks?
This is a very good question. Let's see what the guest says.
Bodie, what's a good response to that?
You know, I wrote a whole chapter on that. And I also have an article on my website dealing just with that subject. But here's the easy answer. We also don't find humans buried with crocodiles. We also don't find humans buried with coelacanths, which are alive today.
This is just a dodge. Humans and crocodiles overlap in time. Both are alive today. The reason we don't find them fossilised together has nothing to do with the fact they're not existing at the same time period. It's because fossilisation is rare and highly dependent on environment. Fossils form when very specific conditions are met. Rapid burial, the right sediment, the right chemistry, which means that most creatures that die don't fossilise at all. But when it comes to dinosaurs and humans, the issue isn't rarity, it's total absence. In hundreds of thousands of fossil sites worldwide, with billions of catalogued specimens, not a single human fossil has ever been found in the same undisturbed layers as non-avian dinosaurs. If they coexisted, we'd expect at least one example. So their crocodile and coelacanth examples actually backfires, because we do find evidence of modern animals alongside humans in recent sediments as expected. What we never find is humans alongside dinosaurs. And that complete absence is exactly what you'd expect if evolution and deep time are true. And exactly what you wouldn't expect if young Earth creationism was true.
Yeah. You know, there's this misconception out there that people think, oh, there's this massive number of dinosaur fossils. There really isn't. There's like maybe 30 what we would consider complete T-Rexes and maybe 60 or so, you know, if you start counting disarticulated things. You know, when it comes to Stegosaurus, if I remember right, just a handful. You know, there's not very many. The odds of a human being buried with any of these are outrageous.
Again, this is a distraction. The number of complete dinosaur skeletons discovered isn't what matters here. Paleontologists don't need perfect museum-ready specimens in order to understand the fossil record. We have millions of fossil fragments, teeth, bones, eggs, footprints, and trace fossils spread across continents. And that record is incredibly detailed, enough to map out whole ecosystems and evolutionary timelines. And crucially, these millions of fossils always show the same pattern. Dinosaurs in Mesozoic layers, mammals in later layers, and humans in the most recent layers. It's not about whether we have perfect, pristine skeletons of every dinosaur species. It's about the complete absence of human fossils in the same strata.
But you know, there was a T-Rex that was found buried with a parrot jaw. And that was published in a peer review. People did not believe it. They defended it. And it was right there. But here's what they did. So you have this T-Rex and you have this parrot jaw buried together. And so what they did is they basically drew a line right between the two and said, this is modern, this is old. And that's really what happens.
They bring up a jaw fragment here claiming to be a parrot buried with a T-Rex skeleton. That story traces back to a disputed Nature paper from decades ago as well. And modern paleontologists don't accept this as evidence of humans or modern birds coexisting with dinosaurs. The bone is now interpreted as part of a non-avian dinosaur, not a living parrot. That's some proper misrepresentation there.
See, a lot of people don't understand the way that they classify some of these rock layers. Like, let's say, for example, you look at these different index fossils of something that say Permian. There's no dinosaurs in it. It's Permian, boom, it's Permian all the way out. And all of a sudden they're digging, and they find a dinosaur in it. Here's what they do. They don't say, hey, look, we found a dinosaur in Permian. they redefine that layer as being Cretaceous, Jurassic, or Cretaceous, Jurassic, or Triassic. So that whole layer gets redefined as soon as you find a dinosaur in it. So you'll never find a dinosaur in any other layer because that layer will be redefined as one of those 3 dinosaur layers. So there's that. But the point is,
stratigraphy isn't decided on a whim. Layers are identified by combinations of fossils, radiometric dating, mineral content, and field relationships like which layers are above or below each other. Index fossils are useful markers, but they're not the only tool. If a fossil did ever turn up out of place, geologists wouldn't just change the label of that layer, they'd investigate it carefully.
I wouldn't expect to find humans and dinosaurs buried together. First off, I don't think there was a very big population.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we started with 2 people. We weren't like the animals. God created the world animal rich.
Yes.
We started with 2 people. There's only 10 generations from Adam to Noah. And some of these people, like Noah, he didn't have any children until he's 500 years old. I don't think there was a whole lot of people. And on top of that, we have a 120-year countdown where people were downright evil, vicious, violent. Every thought of every person was evil all the time. I mean, that's terrible. If everybody on Earth was a murderer, the population cuts in half in one day. Wow. I don't think there was a whole lot of people, number one.
The "there wasn't enough humans" explanation doesn't really work here, because fossilization doesn't require billions of individuals. As I said before, it just requires the right conditions. If humans ever coexisted with dinosaurs, the odds of never once finding a single bone, footprint, or artifact are literally 0. So instead of explaining away the absence of evidence, this argument just highlights the weakness of the young Earth position. If the story were true, we should see at least one overlap in the rocks. But we don't, and that silence speaks volumes.
So the odds of a human being buried with a dinosaur is actually going to be extremely, extremely rare. Like let's say there's a global flood right now. Like, boom, all of a sudden everybody's, oh, look, there's a lion. I'm going to get buried with you. And you go hold on to, I mean, people probably weren't doing that during the flood anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but again, this misses the entire point. Fossilization doesn't depend on who grabs what during a flood. It depends on burial conditions. If there really was a single global flood which wiped out every living thing, we'd expect a massive jumble of fossils all mixed together. But again, that's not what we find. We find consistent layering, with organisms appearing and disappearing in a predictable sequence which matches evolutionary history.
I think there's a lot of good reasons for it. And, people can hop on the website, biblicalauthorityministries.org, and find that article on that if they want to find out some more details.
Well, that right there is what I call a clip-worthy answer. We do like to make clips, shorter clips of our longer videos, and that right there could be a clip that we'll release answering that question, because you made so many important points. From my understanding, they say coelacanth was extinct for somewhere between 65 and 70 million years. But yeah, we find, and you mentioned coelacanth, we find coelacanth swimming around today in the oceans, which means they live with whales. They coexist with humans. Why don't we find coelacanths in whales? They live in the same environments in the ocean. Why don't we find them buried together?
Right.
The answer is simple. Fossilization is rare and selective. Most marine mammals that die don't fossilize at all. They get eaten or decompose or vanish onto the ocean floor. The odds of 2 specific species fossilizing in the same place are incredibly low, even if they do share an environment. That's why we don't see coelacanths preserved next to whales. But crucially, we do find whales in the same strata as other marine life from their time. And we do find coelacanth fossils in older strata, where conditions were right for preservation. And this is exactly why the human-dinosaur comparison doesn't work. Coelacanths are alive today, and humans are alive today. So their fossils could technically overlap, but they don't very often because fossilization is uncommon. Dinosaurs and humans, on the other hand, are separated by tens of millions of years. That's not about fossilization rates, that's about time. You can't find them together because they never coexisted.
Or humans and coelacanth, because the critic would probably say, well, because coelacanth exists in the water, humans on land. Okay, what about whales? What about other creatures that we should have found them buried with? So that right there is a really good point.
Yeah, and all those fossil layers, they all have marine organisms in it. They all have fish.
Yes.
It's clearly a marine catastrophe. So
Saying there are fish everywhere, therefore flood, is like saying there's sand at every beach, therefore one giant storm dumped it all at the same time. It is not one event. It's countless events over hundreds of millions of years, leaving behind the layered record we can still read today. Look, I've had enough of this one today. As usual, the promise of a valid response to a valid question quickly diminishes into more nonsense backed by their beliefs. Dear oh dear oh dear. So then it's time to wrap this one up for another Tinfoil Tuesday. Let me know in the comments below please what you thought of their video there. As I say, we're all done and dusted for another one for us. Thanks so much for watching today. It's very much appreciated. If you enjoyed it, please do consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the thumbs up button too. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great day and I'll see you tomorrow for the return of the Flat Earth Fail compilation. Can't wait. See you then.